Okay, this is Dan Calloway, and welcome to part 2 of hardening your SSH daemon server, remote daemon server in Linux. As you recall from my first video, in part 1, we secured the remote SSH daemon server. In my case, the remote server is running on my Raspberry Pi at an IP address of 192.168.1.90 out on my LAN. And we did that by configuring or modifying rather the etc sshd underscore config file. And in that file what we did was we prohibited root or restricted root from logging in to an SSH session. And we also allowed Pi as the only user to remote in using an SSH session. And we did that by saying that we only allow groups. The group we're allowing is admins, ADMINS, and the admins group is anybody that belongs to that group can log in or create an SSH session to that remote server, daemon server, and if you don't belong to that group, you're not going to be allowed to do it. And Pi was added as a member of that group. So Pi is the only user on the remote system, which is my Raspberry Pi, as I said, that can log in. Root is denied and Pi is the only user. Let's go ahead and show that one more time. I'm going to go ahead and log in as Pi, so I'm going to SSH into Pi at 192.168.1.90, and let's go ahead and put Pi's password in. Hold on, let me back up. Put in the wrong password. Okay. All right. So now I'm logged in as Pi remotely. We're looking at here's Magpie as one of the directories on my remote system. So we are logged in as Pi, and so we were able to do that because Pi belongs to the admins group. Let me go ahead and exit and break the connection. Get back to my Linux system. Who am I? I am Data Pioneer. And so let's try to log in as root now in an SSH session to the Pi. And so let's do SSH root at 192.168.1.90, and let's asking for the password. Okay, it says permission denied. Let's try again. And it should say permission denied again. And why is it not doing anything? I don't know. Let's break that. Let's try it again. SSH root at 192.168.1.90. Okay, a connection refused. The reason that happened was because I've also got a host.deny file running out there on the Pi that says if root tries to log in, go ahead and just ban that particular user. And so now I'm banned from getting into to the remote server. Probably can't even log in as Pi, but we'll try it. SSH Pi at 192.168.1.90. Let's try it again. Yeah, I'm actually locked out now. So let me stop the video and take care of that, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I had been banned at 192.168.1.203 on the Arch Linux VM that I'm on, and so I unbanned myself, and so I'm now back in. If I log in as root, then I'm going to be banned again, so I'm not going to do that. So anyway, so we have effectively prevented root from logging in, and we've also allowed only Pi to log in because we have Pi a member of admins group. Now I'm going to introduce another layer of security here on hardening your SSH daemon server, remote daemon server, and that is an application called fail to ban. And fail to ban allows you to set ban time, allows you to set find time. We'll get into that in a moment, what that is. How long the person is banned if they attempt to log in and they're not allowed to. And that's very nice. What happens is fail to ban, which is an application you can install on the remote server, monitors the system logs for authentication and other things that happen in a particular application for SSHD, fail to ban monitors your auth.log at var.log, auth.log. And if there are, in my case, 3 failed attempts to log in, it bans you. And it bans you for 24 hours. I've got it set for 24 hours, I believe. All right, so let's look at fail to ban. If you could do let me log in as root first. Get back in here. And let's log in as root. So now I am root here. And so let's SSH to pi at 192.168.1.90. And yes, and pi's password. Let's try it again. Put in the wrong password. Okay, there we go. So I'm logged in. Let me do an LSLH here, and you can see I am on the Pi, and there's Magpie. But if I do a PWD, you can see I'm at home Pi, and if I do a who am I, you can see I'm user Pi. So I'm logged into my remote system, and I'm logged in SSH. So I was able to reach that remote server because Pi is in the admins group, as I mentioned. Okay, so if you want to install fail to ban, you can go ahead and install it by doing an apt. Well, first of all, look and search for it. So apt search fail to ban. Okay, and it'll go out and search for it, and it should find it, and it should tell you that it's already installed in my case. Yeah, here it is. It's fail to ban. It's an old stable.now repo. I've got it installed, so I'm not going to install it again, but it says ban hosts that cause multiple authentication errors. Okay, so that's exactly what it does. It does a great job doing it. When fail to ban gets installed, and you would install that obviously by doing a sudo, here I'm already root, I believe. No, I'm not. Sudo apt get install fail to ban would be how you would install it. So I'm not going to install it. And then to check the status on fail to ban, once it is installed, status SSH. There we go. Not the D. And even though it makes sense that it would be a D because it's the daemon or the server. It says that the SSH service is OpenBSD secure shell server. It is loaded, it's active, running, and it is enabled, which means it will survive a reboot or a boot up to the system from cold. And it will be running at runtime for that run level in Arch Linux. All right, so we're good to go there. Now, when fail to ban gets installed, it gets installed. The config file for it is at etc fail to ban. All right, and so let's take a look at that and what's there. And so here's the config file, and we don't really need to get into that, fail to ban.conf or conf. There is a file, however, we do need to get into to configure fail to ban for our use, and that is called jail.conf. Fail to ban calls every application that you have on your system that's being monitored by it a jail. Okay, so that you can control who accesses it. You don't want to update this particular file, however. What you want to do is you want to copy that file to this file here called jail.local. The reason for that is because in updates to fail to ban, the jail.conf file will get overwritten, so any modifications you make in that file will probably be overwritten and revert back to the default, and so you don't want to do that. And so you would just run simply a copy command to jail.conf to jail.local, run that, and then you'll have your jail.local file. All right, so we do have a jail.local, and so I'm going to go ahead and nano. Let me do SU again, get into that as root, so I don't have to do sudo all the time. And that's okay while you're just in here for a while. You don't want to leave it logged in as root, however, and you know that. And so here we have nano jail.local. Okay, and here's the file. And so it just says heavily refactored 0.9.0 release. How to activate the jails, it goes into that. So let's go down the file here. It has the default settings, ban time, and SSHD enabled equals true, but that's not where we enable it. So let's keep going. let's come down to the default section here, and here's the first thing that we need to look at, and that is in the ban time. Okay. By default, ban time, I believe, is 600 seconds, just like find time here. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it is. And this is the amount or number of seconds that a host is banned once they are banned. 600 seconds, that's 10 minutes. That's not enough for me, because if a user is deliberately trying to brute force attack your remote SSH server, you know, they're going to be banned for a while. So what I did was I increased my ban time here to 24 hours, 86,400 seconds. So if you get banned by 3 unsuccessful attempts, and the reason it's 3 is because under max retry, I've set that from the default of 5 down to 3. So that's the number of failures, and I wanted to increase the security on my SSH daemon server, and so I said 5 is too many. If they try 3 times unsuccessfully, then I'm going to ban them, and they get banned for 86,400 seconds or 24 hours. The find time is the amount of time they have from the time they initiate a session in SSH, in other words, hit the server, until they attempt to log in. And so here that's 10 minutes, and so that gives them 10 minutes to do that. That's okay at 600 seconds, so I left it that way. And so that's what I've got set up right now. 3 failed attempts to log into the SSH daemon server, you get banned for 24 hours. And so that bans their IP address and they can't log in. So let's go on down. We're going to get into the jail section here. We'll get into the jail stanza in a moment. Here we are. Here are the jails. Okay. And this is the first one we encounter here is the SSHD or daemon server. And so I set that to enabled equals true, which means I've turned the jail on. And then it looks for on the port for running for SSH, and it looks at these logs for authentication purposes. And if you have 3 unsuccessful attempts, in my case, you get banned. Another jail that I set up was the SSH daemon distributed denial of service attack that could be run against the server, and I enabled that equals true. Okay, come on down. I have, I think, 1 more that I set up, or 2 more actually, I believe. Here we've got the Apache Authentication server. So in Apache, I've enabled that to true as well, and it looks at the authentication logs in Apache and bans if you have 3 successful attempts to log in there. And let's go on down. I don't know if I have any more set up or not. Don't believe I do. All right, so let's get out of this file. So this is the file that you would need to update. And so you do a Control X and you would do yes, because if you modify the file, you'll need to do that. And so one thing that's really important once you modify any file in fail to ban is to go ahead and restart fail to ban so that it gets reread. The jail.local file gets reread. So we made modifications. Service failed to ban, restart. Okay, sorry. Had them flip-flopped. So it's service failed to ban, restart. That restarts the failed to ban server. And so now anything that we did in that file gets recognized and updated. So let's go ahead and run the client and check and see what we have. So I'm going to run a command that checks the status of the client, and that command is fail to ban client status. I'll just run the status first, and that tells us the number of jails that we have. We have 4 jails, and the jail listing is the Apache Authentication, the SSH daemon server, the SSH daemon dedicated or distributed rather denial of service, and the VSFTPD. I have a VSFTPD or very secure FTP daemon server running out on the Raspberry Pi as well. So I've got 4 jails set up out there. And so now if I want to get a specific status on any one of these jails, I can run the same command, except after that status part, just put in the SSHD, which is the jail. And it tells me right now that I have currently fail none, total fail 0, The file that it's looking at is varlog auth.log, and the actions that were taken here: currently banned 0, total banned 0, and then if any IP addresses got banned, they would be right in here. They would be listed right here. I have run this before, and I had an IP address that I ran a trace route on, located it in India. Somebody tried to log into my SSH daemon server, and they tried 3 times unsuccessfully. They got banned, and their IP address was listed right here on the banned IP list. Okay, so this thing works really well. It runs 24 hours around the clock. I never turned my Raspberry Pi off. I never turned the servers off. So this thing is constantly monitoring, your files. And so it's monitoring that, by the way, at, let's go to the file cat of etc var, not etc, it's cat var log auth.log. Can't type today. All right, so here's the file. And so if you did a tail on that, let's do a tail on that. Tail of varlog auth.log. Okay, and so you can see the last, I believe it's 10 lines here of that file. You can see what's going on with it. If you do an F switch, a tail tac F, it'll be followed here, so that you can actually see if somebody tries to log in. It's sitting down here waiting for another line to be generated on the file, and so you can actually see somebody attempting to log in. If they get banned, it's going to tell you that as well. But the fail to ban application is very good because it monitors the various logs for the daemon server, for SSH, for very secure FTP, for HTTPD, which is the Apache web server, and it monitors those for you automatically and bans automatically users who attempt to log in. So it's just another layer of security over and above modifying that etc sshd_config file, and it works very effectively. Like I said, I've had users banned before, and they're banned for 24 hours. They don't usually come back because they know they're being banned. And so this has been part 2 of hardening your SSH daemon server. And in part 3, we'll take a look at another layer of security, which is really not necessary because we have fail to ban, but we can add that on as well, and that's called host.deny and host.allow, and something called deny hosts application, which when a particular user gets banned, then the entry is made in the host.deny. And so we'll take a look at that in part 3. All right, so if you like my videos here in the Western North Carolina Linux users group, go ahead and comment and hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. Make sure you hit that bell next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified when new videos get uploaded. All right, so you have a nice day and take care. Bye-bye.